Hi everyone, a little bit of a different video today. I wanted to talk about the issue of cannabis because a lot of people are using it, and not even just young people, a lot of older people who are my age. I'm 57 now. I know people who still to this day smoke cannabis at my age, Generation X, and they've been smoking it ever since they were teenagers and they're still smoking it. Now, my brother met a guy who we used to go to school with, and he came bouncing up to him in the park, and he said, "All right, Kev, how are you doing? How are you doing?" And Kev didn't recognise, my brother didn't recognise him, and the guy had sunglasses on, and he said, "Oh, take your shades off, mate." And he took his shades off, and then he recognised him as an old friend of ours. And he was a prolific cannabis user when we were teenagers. And he was saying that he still smoked it, which didn't surprise me because he absolutely loved it. He was always smoking cannabis. One of these people that would wake up in the morning and roll a joint. But my brother said his head is gone. And it doesn't surprise me because really you're messing around with parts of your brain that shouldn't be messed with. And I know some people say, "Oh, it's good therapy and it helps me, and and it can be used for medication purposes." I mean, gosh, really? I mean, what's the real intention that people are really using it for? Most people, it's to get high, isn't it? To alter the consciousness, to escape reality. And I think it's really bad for your mental health, as is shown in that instance with that friend of ours there. So it's nothing new. I mean, the Mods and the Rockers were smoking cannabis in the 1960s. I was a goth, I was a punk in the 1980s, and I was smoking it. And people are still smoking it today, teenagers, and people my age are still smoking it. But what I would say is, if you're in midlife, why on earth are you smoking that stuff? It's not good for you. It just demotivates you. It's bad for your mental health. People give you all this stuff about, "Oh, it's good for you, it helps me to relax." I mean, come on, be honest. It's messing with your life. It really is. And plus, you got to think of your wallet as well. In later years, especially, you need to think about saving up for your future if you can, as best as you can. But I want to give a couple of stories of things relating to cannabis. One of them concerns myself. One of them concerns the story of an old friend of mine who sadly passed on now. But yeah, I got into smoking cannabis when I was a teenager because my friends were smoking it. I thought it was a good idea to do, and just started off lightly at first, smoking some joints. And it was quite fun at times. We had a laugh. We would be giggling and laughing, and it was crazy, good camaraderie. And it all seemed really, really good fun until one day I had an absolutely horrific experience on cannabis. And when I tell this story, some people say, "Are you sure you were smoking cannabis, Vince?" But it was cannabis. Whether it was laced with something, I don't know. But I had a few bad experiences, but this was the first and the worst one. We got together, we smoked cannabis, and then we went to this pub. I was a punk at the time, so I was dressed in all my punk gear, and I used to like the attention. But when you start having an experience on cannabis which is bad, and everyone's starting to give you that attention, it's not really welcome at all. So yeah, I was walking along to the pub, and everyone was laughing like hyenas, and I was sort of going thinking, "Oh, I don't like this feeling." And one of my friends went, "Wow, he's on a downer. He's gone white." And that just made things worse. So we walked, before we knew it, we walked into this pub, and the lights were just bright like that. And everything just seemed loud and bright and angry. And I was just so paranoid as the sensation was growing and growing as well. And we sat down. I had one friend on one side and me one on another side. And then these girls walked in who we worked with, one of whom I quite fancied. She was really attractive. I never had the courage to ask her out. I was quite shy. And she sat opposite us, along with this other girl who we didn't know. I can't remember anyway. And they were looking at me and they were saying, "What's up with him?" And they said, "Oh, he's he's on a downer, he's gone white, you know. And then the very fact that they were there, and I was self-conscious enough anyway, just made it even worse. And then one friend said to me, Vince, you've got your penis out. And the other one said, Vince, you're playing with it. Vince, you've got your penis out. Vince, you're playing with it. And I just had my head up like this. And in my twisted thinking, I just thought, if I look down, my penis is actually going to be out in the middle of the pub and I'm going to be playing with it. And I know it sounds crazy, but that's what I was starting to think. And they thought it was hilarious, obviously. And I had these girls staring at me as well. And I just stood up and I said, listen, I've got to get out of here. I've got to get out. So when I stood up, it felt like my legs were just going like this, wobbling all over the place. And I was like this. And I felt like everyone in the pub was going, everyone in the pub. And the next day I asked my friends, I said, you know, when I got up to walk out of the pub, was I wobbling everywhere and was everyone laughing at me? And he said, no, you just stood up quietly and said, oh, I've got to go, and just walked out. And that was it. But anyway, when I got out into the night air, that's when it added another dimension to the whole experience, because all I wanted to do was get home. And we walked everywhere back in them days and never drove. Didn't think of getting the bus or a taxi. I don't know why. But I ended up walking, and gosh, it was probably a good 45 minutes walk to get home easily, maybe more than that even. And I was walking along and people were staring at me. And obviously all the people that were staring at me were just staring at me because I was dressed as a punk. That's all it was. And people stared at me anyway, so I was used to it. But in this situation, it was really bad. I was really paranoid. So I remember trying to run, and then I got to this curb, and I stood on this curb. Every time I stood on the curb, I seemed to go back, and I stood on it again, and I seemed to go back, and I stood on it again. So I mean, probably in reality, I was just sort of just doing this, probably just doing this. And, you know, I think it's just a wonder I never got battered, actually, you know, the way I was acting. And, you know, the way I was dressed as well. I was by myself, it was dark. Only by the grace of God, I think, did I survive. And then, for some crazy reason, and I often used to do this as a teenager, I walked through 2 parks to get home in the pitch black, and there's no lights in these parks. It's literally pitch black. And I walked through the park and I started to run. No one about, thankfully. It would have sent me even more crazy, I think, if I saw anybody. But then I was running and it felt like my mouth went inside out and I couldn't breathe. But then I sort of went beyond breathing and I was still surviving. I was thinking, well, I can't breathe anymore, but I'm doing something else to survive, to be able to live. And all this was going on inside my head. And then I started to run, and the grass was bouncing. And then I felt like I was running on sponge, literally like bouncing on the moon. And everything seemed to be going in slow motion. And then when I got through to the second park, I saw the gates, and then I could see the streetlights then of the road in front of me, which meant I wasn't very far from home. And I thought, thankfully. And then I looked, and there was a massive gang of about 100 lads blocking the gate. And I thought, oh my goodness, I can't go through all of that. So I was trying to ponder what to do. Is there another way I can get out of here? I'm not going through that lot. I'm going to get battered. And then I looked up again, boom, and they'd all just gone. Just like that. And there was no one there. When I got to the gates, there was literally no one about. So a hallucination. And then I managed to get home. I was just so relieved to be home. So relieved. So that was my bad experience. But I had a few bad experiences on it. And I think people think, oh, you know, I've never had a bad experience like that. But it can happen. It can happen. You are really playing with your mind when you're smoking this stuff. And, you know, you're not in control of this drug. You're really not. One day it can just switch like that and it can just turn and you can have a horrific experience. Now, a friend of mine had a bad experience similar to mine. And he was somebody that smoked cannabis more than me. I mean, I didn't smoke it a great deal, really. I was more into drinking, but I did smoke the cannabis. But because I had one want too many bad experiences. That was the worst one, but I did have other lesser bad experiences. I just thought, this is not for me, this, you know, it really isn't. But this friend of mine used to smoke it all the time. He'd wake up in the morning and he'd just roll a cannabis joint and he would smoke it like he would smoke a cigarette. And there's some people, I know other people like that, and they always seem to be sort of in a state of being permanently stoned for some reason. But anyway, he was smoking it one night as he normally did, and he was watching the TV, and he said that there was a guy on the TV who was making out that he was from another planet, and he said that he stared at the camera like that, and it looked like his eyes were like burrowing into his soul, and my friend went, "Oh, don't look at his eyes, don't look at his eyes, he's trying to hypnotise us, And the other people in the room said, no, he's not, you know, and they were laughing, thinking it was funny. He said, no, don't look at his eyes. And then he jumped up, he said, I've got to get out. And he started freaking out. And he ran out into the street and he was worried about aliens. And he said that he saw the moon, the full moon was in the sky. But in his stoned state, he thought that the moon was a spaceship. He thought it was a UFO. So he was trying to run away from it, and he was in the road and cars were beeping at him. And then he ended up in the park as well. I don't know what it is about the park and having bad experiences with cannabis, but he ended up in the park, and he said he was hiding behind a bush, and he kept on looking to see if the spaceship was there. And obviously he couldn't outrun it. And he was cowering, and then he ran for it. He thought, I've got to make a run for it. And he ran into this men's club, like an old blokes sort of pub, sort of men's club kind of thing by the park. And he went in there, and he said he felt like there was pockets of evil and pockets of good near people. So he was trying to get away from the people that he felt an evil presence from, and then he was trying to get close to the people that he felt a good presence from. And he said it was really strong as well, all this. So one of these people in the good group phoned him a taxi, and he went to his brother's. But when he got in the taxi, he was ranting and raving about all kinds. And he didn't, the weird thing was, he didn't know where his brother's house was. He knew the road, but he couldn't quite remember the number of the house. So all of a sudden, as he was thinking about it and trying to direct the taxi driver, he said that he saw a strip light by a door coming down. And he said, that's it. And there was no strip light there in reality, but it was there in his mind. Isn't it strange that? So he actually said, that's my brother's house. He's the Messiah. That's what he said. And anyway, he went to his brother's house, and his brother calmed him down. But yet, sadly, this guy died. And I think it was substance abuse related as well. I mean, he was all right for a few years. He got rid of it, but then he went back into it. And I've heard about people doing this. It's so tragic to get clean. And I'm not sure whether it was just cannabis that he was smoking in the end. I think it might have been other stuff as well. I don't know. I mean, I lost touch with him really, but it's sad. I mean, it was substance abuse that killed him. So yeah, there's the dangers of drugs, guys. And you know, although cannabis might not kill you, it can mess with your head. It's bad for your mental health. It gives you psychosis. It burns holes in your wallet. And you got to think of your lungs as well, your physical health. I mean, if we were designed to breathe smoke into our lungs, my dad always used to say, God would have put a chimney on our heads. So just a few things to bear in mind. You know, if you're dabbling in this stuff, if you've been smoking it a long time even, maybe it's time to give it up. And yeah, I just thought I'd share some funny stories as well anyway, guys. So yeah, thanks for listening. See you soon. Take care. God bless.